When you turn to page 6, briefly, let me just read the headline there. Reforms on governance structure, a must, says Raila, and we can go into the details a bit later on in the program. But that's where I want to start this discussion with my guests, to ask them. 2017, 2 elections. This clearly had an effect on the business environment. Should there be a referendum later this year? We're talking about, we're in April. So if we say later this year, it could be when? November, October, December, towards the end. What does that mean for those of you who do business, who rely on sort of day-to-day operations of Kenyans to be able to fund your SMEs and your businesses? And Victor, I could start with you.
Thank you very much
for the business environment.
Thank you very much. I think government being the biggest market in the business environment, obviously that is very profound, because a lot. These are the 2 levels of government. So at the national level, we have a lot of tenders being floated, also at the county level. So it means that if they are distracted, for lack of a better word, doing politics or focusing on the referendum, I just wonder, what repercussion that would have to people who trade directly with business, with government.
Okay. Can any of you, and this could be maybe to you, Mary or Joyce, talk about 2017, how business was affected then, and how the process of rebuilding has been sort of after that? Maybe we could start with you. What were your experiences?
During that time, the business was actually doing very well.
Okay.
And sometimes you find it's positive, sometimes it's negative. But if I say on the positive is that we had a lot of business, and businesses were actually engaging us to do more business.
You're actually a voice in the wilderness. Many said things you're like a voice in the wilderness, contrary to what others were saying, that it was tough. People were just focused on politics alone. But sorry,
maybe that also depends on sector to sector.
Okay.
Depends on sector to sector. So on the sector for cleaning services, that's what I do mostly.
Yeah.
I would say it was quite good, because for us we did a lot of government tenders. And that's why I started doing a lot of government tenders. When the government say, let's give youth, women, and people with disability business, of course, we got a lot of business. And for us, it was quite good.
All right. Joyce, what do you make of it? That 12 billion shilling referendum.
Yes.
How would it affect the manufacturing sector if that was to happen today?
Of course, it's going to affect the manufacturing sector. And just to respond to the question around 2017, we experienced a slowdown, an economic slowdown. And the first problem was earlier in the year, we had a serious drought. There was issues of hunger. And then the elections, which happened twice. And with the manufacturing sector, we rely a lot on government being stable. And a lot of government offices had nothing to do. They were really stranded in terms of moving forward, and budgets were constrained, and a lot of focus was on elections. We also couldn't engage county governments because they were busy campaigning or not really clear on whether they are in office or not. So nothing much was happening in the county governments. And that then affected how businesses were going about accessing government services, as well as people not being clear about the stability of the country. Also, partners from international spheres were on a wait-and-see attitude. So nothing much was happening in terms of trading. Of course, for the manufacturing sector, it's a big agenda. And those who wanted to invest here were saying, we need to be quite clear on the direction the country is taking before
we put our
money in this country.
So everything was just spending, basically.
Yes.
Okay. Peter Wachira, you're in Gikomba. You deal a lot with the common mwananchi. How was it there?
I think we were much affected. When I say we were much affected, in Gikomba is like everybody is there for his day, whatever. Our youth are being used. When it comes to political rallies, our idle youth are being used, are being misused, not misused. There's a lot of lack of security. There's misuse of our facilities. Maybe the issue of business is normal. I think politicians take advantage of Gikomba because most youth go to Gikomba. So the time they are idle, they pour a few coins for they used to go in their rallies. There's no, even the county government does not even give any support. So for us, for a referendum or an election is a loss to us, a loss for us.
An election.
For whenever we come for an election, I think most of us get affected. Even those fire in Gikomba, they always come at time of election. Because there are people who are divided. Some on this camp, others this camp. So this camp might do something dangerous to the other camp because you are all there. I think Gikomba is, I think like everybody is in Gikomba. Every political party is in Gikomba. So I think we are much
from
affected.
everywhere are in
We are
Gikomba.
much affected than any other sector.
So when you hear that there might be a referendum,
We
there are
get
many
shocked.
You get shocked.
Yeah. For now, we hear something like election, something like that, we get shocked. Because they will start, like today morning, Gikomba is now burning as we speak.
We've had rumors, but
As we
no
speak,
confirmation.
it's now burning.
What has happened and where?
No, for Gikomba, you cannot tell. This fire comes at 2 in the morning. Nobody, we have since 1987, we have never known or get an idea where this fire comes from. Every year a fire. Every year a fire. The million of Chinese are going to lose.
So you never get results from
We
this
have never got
investigation,
any result.
that's what you
We have not been told this. There's never investigation that come with a result. What happened this year?
Can you tell us what details do you have about today's fire? Do you know what time it started? Do you know where? Just for the
Okay.
benefit of our viewers, what do you know exactly?
What I know, I was called but allowed 2 in the morning
2 a.m. Okay.
when I was coming, and I passed Gikomba. But the fire has gone, and there's a place that we call 42. Always the fire is there. Always between the Shalumoyo Road and up to the UNI Bank. There's a place have been consistent fire for more than 10 times. And we have never got anybody tell us this fire come from this place. There's nothing that come from that fire.
Wow.
And I'm very true. After this, everybody will go back to normal place. Kila kitu imeshomeka, watu wote watakaa namna hii. The government have been talking about this fire.
Maisha itaendelea tu.
The government have talked about this fire. You see people coming there, talks a lot of things. Tutafanya hivi, tutajenga hivi, but all those things are not helping the common mwananchi because kuna wale wamelent hizo shops. Kuna wale owners. So what they do, immediately after the fire, they go and construct again because of their
Kwa sababu lazima maisha yaendelee.
maisha yaendelee.
Thank you. Well, thank you for those details. This is a story we'll keep following, and we strive to give our viewers more details about a fire, possible fire, but he's confirmed that he has seen it actually, and he operates from Gikomba as a representative there, and we'll give you more updates as and when we get them. But staying with this story, I think let's switch to page 12 now of the Standard. And
So
take a look at, sorry.
Yeah.
Go right ahead,
So
Trevor. You ready there?
The Standard is where Uhuru is off to Mauritius before a Chinese meeting. The China trip will see Uhuru negotiate a fresh 380 billion shilling SGR loan. On April 25th, the president will be in Beijing, that's in China, hoping to secure another 380 billion loan for the Naivasha-Kisumu phase of the standard gauge railway. And I'd like to hear our views, and we'll start with you, Joyce. What do you think?
Another loan.
Good time,
Another
bad
year,
time,
another loan.
wrong time.
Well, if you have planned very well on what you need as a country and the kind of partnerships you need, because you're operating in a global environment, then there has to be clarity on the objectives of exactly what we want to achieve and different fundraising mechanisms. I know in Kenya we rely heavily on loans, but there are many other fundraising mechanisms like the sovereign bonds and others that we can work on. But the biggest challenge is not access to the loan, it's actually how that money is utilized and whether it's going to benefit Kenyans. Also the governance around how that money is managed and the distribution of the economic value that is going to be experienced. So more so, going out there and looking for trade deals is not the challenge, but is it properly planned? Is it going to help the economy? At the same time, what's our capacity to be able to pay back and at the same time get the rippling effect to the entire economy? Otherwise, for the manufacturing sector, we are keen in partnering with different countries to look at how we can experience trade relations and benefit from our export market development.
Let me interrupt. Are there concerns that, and some have said that some of these loans, the money barely comes into the country?
Yes.
Because the biggest suppliers of a project like the SGR are actually in China. Yes. So it's like the money just revolves within the Chinese ecosystem, without much impact in Kenya. Is there a reality to that from a manufacturing sector? Are you going to feel the benefit of this? Are your members going to feel the benefit of this 360-something billion?
80 billion.
80 billion?
Yes.
Well, to some extent, the previous engagements earlier that were negotiated, as manufacturing sector, we engaged government to say that we need clarity on at least 40% local content.
40%
yes,
local
and
content.
a lot of the implementation of that, because a lot of industries like the cement sector and others went into full production to be able to supply SGR. Then they came up with conditions that were not necessarily easy for our members to meet, or maybe the clarity around what were the requirements was not clear. So such deals, we have constantly said they need to come up with the local content arrangements, skills transfer opportunities, as well as having a clear, transparency around what are the requirements in delivering such projects and mapping out the Kenyans that are capable to deliver on such projects. So we've been promoting also in terms of people understanding what is available locally, the capacity of the manufacturing sector and many other sectors to deliver some of these services, so that by the time we are negotiating trade deals, we are very keen, or we are very clear on what Kenya has to offer, and then you just look for complementary services.
So where's the breakdown here, Joyce? Because you say what you're looking for is 40% local content involvement, but somehow it's not happening. It sounds very good on paper. Where is the breakdown? Is it that there's no capacity to deliver the 40% that you're asking for, and even the skills transfer? Where is the breakdown here?
The breakdown is really the implementation challenges. First of all, information and knowledge around who can be able to meet this capacity. And we've been working closely with government to be able to give them constant information around which industries are capable of delivering what capacities and volumes to different types of projects. Especially SGR has been a pet subject. This is what exactly are the materials required to deliver that, the skills required, the timelines, and the kind of partnerships that should be there. Subcontracting also. We say that there should be clear subcontracting arrangements between whether it's China or whichever other countries coming in with our local experts, so that there's that continuity of business thereafter, and to some extent we can be more sustainable in how we deliver our services.
Okay. Victor, you've been dealing with a lot of SMEs as well, and is this a good time to take the loan?
I think for me, looking at it from a business angle is whenever you seek investment, you always want to invest in an area that unlocks value. So retrospectively, we look at the SGR from Mombasa to Nairobi. Has it unlocked the value that we anticipated? So, and I think there are still question marks around the same. So there has been a lot of friction between government and people who import products.
For example.
So a lot of them still want to do truck, meaning they don't see value in the SGR as constituted right now. So for me, the question from one end is if it's not breaking even or it's not unlocking value in the economy now, do you think we should proceed with it? That's from one perspective. The other perspective is if we are soaking debt, if we are getting more debt, do we have and it's not unlocking value in the economy, how are we able to pay for that debt? So it means as business people or as SMEs who trade with government is increasingly not able to pay their day-to-day expenditures. So it means if I supply government right now, chances of me being paid in 30 or even 90 days is very slim. So I think the cascading effect of you taking a loan directly affects the way they work with businesses.
Mary, what is standard business practice in terms of how much debt you should take on? You say business has been good. So give us, what's your limit where you say right now, the debt we've reached, we're not going to go beyond here. And what would you advise others? So that we compare what happens at an SME sort of size vis-a-vis a large economy like Kenya.
So is this on the government borrowing? So what I keep thinking, instead of government borrowing so much, because the moment they keep on borrowing a lot of money, what happens is that there's going to be a lot of inflation. And when there's a lot of inflation, this also affects the business environment. So I keep thinking, probably they need to sit down and think, should we borrow this money or what else can we do? So I keep thinking maybe in the terms of mindset, they need to keep thinking, because what you think before you do is actually very important.
How much would you borrow for your company in terms of percentage of the value of your company? So if your value is worth 50 million or 100 million, per se, how much would you be comfortable borrowing, knowing the value of your company?
Oh, I would ask. Currently, I actually need 24 million. So to scale up my business.
Okay.
Yeah, that would help me scale up my business.
That would help you. But what would you be comfortable borrowing compared to the value of your company? What sort of limits have you put in with your team to ensure that our debt should never rise beyond a certain amount? 50%, 30%? Are you comfortable borrowing 100% of the value of your company, for example?
No, we actually do work with between 20 and 30%.
20 and 30%?
Yes.
Okay. You want to come in?
I just wanted to contribute there. I think it's the question of borrowing is not a question of, you don't correlate it to value.
Okay.
But
although some have shown concerns about the value of economy vis-a-vis how much we've actually borrowed.
It's why you're borrowing. If, for example, your business model is solid, in the sense that my value is small, but my business model in terms of how will this investment expand the economy enough to repay that debt? For me, that's the question. So if you look at, is the project viable? Can it be able to give a return that is enough for us to keep and to be able to repay the loan?
Okay. Peter, Wachira, what do you think? As this SGR business, has it affected you in any way? Has it enabled business for Gikomba?
For us, SGR is a benefit to us.
Yeah.
Now, for us, it's a benefit. We have been bringing our container through the SGR. It's easier than
Is it
before.
more efficient now?
More efficient,
Yes.
for more quicker,
Yes.
and more efficient. The other thing about the borrowing or whatever, on our side, we don't need those borrowing. We have the issue of the importers. They just need duty to be importation duty to
Be reduced.
That one is okay. It's comfort because the importers are the pillar in the Gikomba market. They are our mother from the word go. Come down to when it comes to the wholesalers, they just need bank to reduce the interest rate in the bank. So after that, we do the business. The rest we cannot hold them with the SME. How we can borrow money and return, because not everybody need that small money in the Gikomba.
Okay.
But the large number that need that money, those are below 10,000. They are like 1 million. Because Gikomba, you cannot compare Gikomba with other market because we have importers, we have the wholesalers, we have the retailers, we have service providers like we have banks, we have SACCOs. We have
it's a whole economy. Economy itself.
We have the members, we have the transporters. Everybody is there. So everybody have a problem that is not equal to the other person.
Okay.
So we have different categories of people working there.
Let me ask. Sorry for interrupting you. How have mobile loans, the ones that you just go to your phone immediately and you can borrow 5,000, 3,000, how has that affected the operations of all the different parties that operate at Gikomba? We hear sometimes there are those who borrow in the morning and repay in the evening.
Yes.
Just explain to us how that happens.
You know what happens? There are those people who are genuine. There are people who go and buy, let's say, for example, those who sell shoes. You buy a bag of 5,000 in the morning. You sell, you have your 500. You turn your loan back. So by the evening,
you've returned.
You take another loan in the morning. It will go like that. The other people who are still there, who have their money, I give you 10,000 and you bring me 10,500. Okay. There are still people who are there.
In the evening.
So for me, I think the government can even do better than those people.
Yeah.
If an individual can just say, you have my money, and tomorrow morning, you bring this.
So they're like Shylocks.
They are like Shylocks.
Yes.
So if the government can come with a very good agenda and a very good way of distributing this money, without those cartels and without those government officials or whatever, let those people organize themselves. Okay. Like now we are in, let's say we are on those side of shoes, those for fish, for what? Let us have our group here.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And before you come in, we also want to let our viewers know that we are slowly easing into our topic, which is a focus on SMEs. We want to ask you what more can be done to help SMEs, because many people have said that SMEs not only are the backbone of the economy, but they are the saviors of any strong economy, and that's what's up on your screen. The necessary numbers are...
Yeah, you can text us on 22422. The hashtag we're using is Daybreak. You can also call in live 0719 777 or 0742 961343. And this is also coming at a time when research shows that SMEs always crumble down within the first 3 years of their establishment. what more should be done to support SMEs there as well. And Joyce, you wanted to come in with a comment on this?
I just wanted to add the fact that SGR is answering the questions around markets. Most of us in this country have complained about infrastructure as a major challenge in terms of either accessing different destinations in the counties, whether you're coming to Gikombo, you're going to Mombasa, you're going to Kisumu, or you want to go to the rest of the African continent. Yeah. SGR, of course, is one of those transport systems that is going to unlock value. Like he's saying, you need to unlock value. The challenge around the debt is what we are saying, and then we must understand debt to government is different from debt to a business, because in government, of course, you're looking at social value, public good, and others, compared to a business where return on investment is critical. When you're looking at things like transport, you'll find that return on investment is really, really long term. It's not a money-making venture as such. It's there to help the public to access different destinations, move goods from one place to the other. If you look at China, for instance, they're willing to build railway lines across the continents just to be able to take their production, because they have invested in manufacturing, so many manufacturing practices. They are not able to access different markets, so they are willing to fund different countries to just cross over and be able to serve the whole of Europe, the whole of Africa through the railway line. So we must embrace that as a good thing. Our challenge is just governance around how that fund is utilized, whether it's put into good use and it's being able to do the work that it was intended to do.
Speaking of governance, when we return, we'll be talking about a new credit scheme announced by President Uhuru Kenyatta. We'll need to talk about what the intention is, but also what have we seen in the past in terms of government funds? Have they reached the people that they should have, and what has been the impact? And those are important questions that we need to ask, even as some SME owners cheered that announcement by the president last week. And this comes off the back of the fact that in 2018 the president confessed to SME owners that we have failed you. I think he had a speech which he shelved and said, SME owners, I don't know what to tell you. We have failed you. Is he now redeeming himself? And so what are the steps moving forward?